Mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another webinar. I am your host, John Chow, and with me today, I have Tyler Cruz from tylercruz.com, Zach Johnson from zachjohnson.com, and Matt Bitzowitz. Wait, is that right? I got it wrong. From Flippa.com. And today, our session is on how to buy and sell websites on Flippa. Now, when I first started this, I was getting people saying they could not hear me, so I'm hoping you can all hear me now. And if not, just send me a message saying you don't hear me. But I think we got it fixed. Right? So how this is going to work is I'm going to have our three panelists each present their presentation to you. Matt will begin, and he's going to tell us all about Flippa, what it is, and how we take advantage of it, how to make money from it. And then afterward, we're going to have both Zach and Tyler present several case studies of deals that they did on Flippa and how they did it, how they found the deal, how much money they made, if they want to boast that. And then after that, we'll just open up the lines for questions that you may have on Flippa or any other topic. So let's begin with my first guest. His name, Matt, is the co-founder of Flippa. In addition to finding Flippa, he's also the co-founder for several other big sites, the most prominent being SitePoint.com. I remember Tyler and I met each other at SitePoint in the SitePoint forums, and it's one of the biggest forums online, and fond memories of that. It's still one big site. I believe Flippa started off as as a part of SitePoint and then just spun off because it got so big. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to switch my screen over to Matt and make him the presenter, and he will show us Flippa. All right, so here we go. Okay, Matt, you can put your
Excellent.
presentation
You
in
see
full
my
screen.
screen?
You can begin.
Awesome. So what is Flippa? Flippa, as John said, was originally part of the SitePoint forums. And what started happening in the SitePoint forums is we had a whole lot of website owners and developers and webmasters with all these revenue-generating websites with traffic and content and registered users, but they had no place to sell those websites other than the SitePoint forums. So people began starting forum threads, offering their websites for sale. Other people started placing bids and buying those websites. And this activity continued to grow and grow and grow until eventually we said, this has to be its own company. This is a really big idea. At the time, we have very little competitors, very few marketplaces like Afternic and Cedar.com and GreatDomains.com where people can buy and sell domains, but there really was no spot on the internet where you could run a proper auction for a website that's generating traffic and revenue and has content. So that's why we created Flippa. We just crossed the $50 million mark threshold in terms of the number of websites sold. We sell about $2 to $4 million in websites every single month, depending on the number of big sales that happen any given moment. Our sell-through rate is over 50%, which means that 1 in 2 websites like I listed on Flippa.com end up selling above their reserve price, which is pretty amazing and very, very different from the domain name space. If anyone on the line has played with domain name investing, you know the chances of a given domain name selling on auction is very, very slim unless you have a particularly strong and generic term. That's not the case with websites. Websites have traffic, revenue, and content, and you can apply multiples and valuations to all those factors, come up with a number, and sell the website quite successfully in a relatively short amount of time. Most websites on Flippa end up selling within 1 to 2 weeks. So it's really, really quick, and there's a lot of liquidity in the market, which again is completely different from domain name investing or domain name speculation. So one of the things I like to show in my presentation is this idea of buying traffic through AdWords, either paid networks versus simply buying a website. You can spend $2,000 buying traffic from Google or another search engine, 7search or whatever, and you get those 10,000 clicks, you spend your $2,000 and that's it. But for that same amount of money, the same $2,000 investment, you might be able to pick up a blog or website or forum that gets 10,000 unique visitors each and every month. This gives you a lot more opportunity to test different offers and gives you much longer tail on your investments, not just $2,000. You run an offer and then it's gone. You have that traffic on a continuous basis. And if you're good at SEO or marketing, you have the opportunity to grow that traffic base even further through your own efforts. So I think website flipping, website buying is a tremendous opportunity for savvy internet marketers and affiliates who have a bit of cash to spend. Now, many people are using acquired websites to build one-way links to their main property. They're doing 301 redirects. People are acquiring websites for content, for email lists, for forum user bases. Some people are building networks of websites or blogs. Others are simply applying their monetization skills to websites that they acquire. And if you spend any time on flippa.com going through the listings, you'll see that there's a ton of awesome websites out there that are grossly under-monetized. People who have no idea that anything outside of Google AdSense exists. And as a result, they have websites that get a ton of traffic but make very little money, which is why there's so many good deals to be found if you're willing to sift through them and find those nuggets of gold. So one of the key things that we always get asked about at Flippa is how do I know what I'm buying? How do I know I won't get ripped off? And I kind of want to go through some quick tips on what to look for when buying and selling websites. I'm sure Zach and Tyler will give their own tips as well from the deals they've done later on in this webinar. First and foremost, when doing due diligence, you should be checking their who is info and the domain name. If it's private, ask the seller to unmask it so you can look at their contact information and their details, find out their name, their address, their phone number, etc. Number two, insist on Google Analytics for traffic stats and ask for at least 6 months of data. Don't just go on based on the last 3 or 4 weeks of data because it's very easy to inflate traffic in the short term, and the valuation that you should be placing on a website should be based on the long-term trend and not a temporary spike, which could, for example, be just someone buying a whole bunch of pop under inventory and all that traffic disappears as soon as you acquire the website. So Google Analytics is the gold standard. You want at least 6 months and you want verified Google Analytics stats. Basically what that means is on Flippa we have a feature where an auction holder or website seller can provide us their Google Analytics access. We log into Google Analytics using their login credentials, grab all the stats and screenshots and pull it back into our system. That way we can verify that information is legitimate, that hasn't been faked or photoshopped. So it becomes a lot more reliable. Number three is check the geographic breakdown of the traffic. 100,000 visitors from the US is worth a completely different amount of money than 100,000 visitors from India or Pakistan. So definitely have a close look at the geo breakdown of traffic because that will have a massive impact on how you're able to monetize that website after you acquire it. Something to definitely keep a look at. Check our website's history on archive.org. Archive.org is this awesome web tool where you can see what a web page looked like 3 months, 6 months, 3 years ago. Now we can see how the domain name that you're acquiring has been used in the past and if it's done any dodgy stuff in the past. For example, you might find that a seller was using a particular ad network 6 months ago and that's no longer being used or whatever. You can ask questions around that and find out a lot of useful information that might not be disclosed in the listing description. So definitely spend some time on archive.org going through the past pages for the site to see what it looked like and what it was used for and what ad networks and ad monetization things might have been tried. Google the seller's name and the name of their website. You can find out some really interesting stuff about people and who you're dealing with. So if you're buying an e-commerce website, you definitely want to Google the name of the e-commerce website, see if it has, lots of complaints or negative feedback, or on sites like ripoffreport.com or whatever, you can find out a lot just by Googling. Manually review the inbound links to the domain name. Obviously, if a website is getting a lot of traffic from organic SEO, it's important that you know the source of the links, helping generate all that link juice and help sustain those rankings. Often what we see is a website seller has a network of other sites that they're linking to a domain name that they're selling. And as soon as the website is sold, they might, for example, yank down those links, and then the website buyer will be stuck with a website that's all of a sudden dropping really quickly in the rankings. So you really want to know where the inbound links to the site are coming from, and if those inbound links are coming from other sites owned by a seller, you want to make sure that those links stay in place after your acquisition. Check the marketing of the website. There's a really cool tool called semrush.com that you can use to put up quick reports. If you're doing a large deal, talk to the seller on the telephone, even if that means you have to stay up till 8 or 9 or 10 p.m. to overcome time zone differences. It's really worth it. And people will tell you a lot on the phone that they won't write in an email or private message or even in a Skype IM conversation. Another cool thing you can do is overlay ad network stats with Google Analytics stats and look for divergences. So if AdSense, for example, is reporting 10,000 ad views a day and Google Analytics is only reporting 5,000 ad views a day, it gives you something to ask about and investigate further. So doing an overlay of traffic stats from 2 or more different traffic sources can be really helpful to find out whether or not anything dodgy is going on. And finally, check the robots.txt file on the domain name. Robots.txt, for those who don't know, is a file that you can create on your domain name that tells Google to not index, not look at certain pages. And sometimes it can be really interesting to see what sort of pages have been excluded, and you can ask why that might be the case. I want to go through a couple of the quick examples. Is there a question? Sorry. I want to go through a couple of the example sales that have happened on Flippa just to show you the sort of nuggets of gold that can be found if you're persistent enough in looking for websites. So an example of a sale is livecrunch.com, which is a tech blog, which was generating 170,000 unique visitors per month, had 18,000 pages indexed in Google, some really high profile backlinks back to the site. And despite being a tech blog and despite having 170,000 uniques per month, the website owner was only monetizing it to the tune of $600. It's like a huge opportunity right there. And because the website was only making $600 a month, it sold for $10,000. And someone who was better at SEO, better monetization, probably made that money back in 2 or 3 months, if not quicker. And now they have an ongoing revenue stream. Another example sale was this Photoshop site, Best Photoshop Tutorials. It was generating 80,000 uniques per month, 250,000 page views per month, had very stable and reliable traffic. 50% of the traffic was from inbound links from various article directories. 32% of the traffic was from organic SEO. Most of the traffic was from the US and UK, which I mentioned earlier is very, very important because that means you were able to monetize the traffic so much better than comes from other countries. Had nice page rank 4, etc. And the blog with all that traffic, 250,000 page views a month, sold for only $2,800, which is pretty amazing. Another example, just from the lead gen space, there was a website that went on sale called Big Loan Guide. I was making $1,700 per month in revenue. This guy was only getting like $10 for mortgage leads. The only other ads he had on the site were Google AdSense. 93% of the traffic was, organic. This guy had done a lot of article submissions. Traffic was almost entirely from the USA. Lots of original content, yada yada. And despite making $1,700 per month, it only sold for $11,300. Again, if you know anything about the mortgage or lead gen space, we could have gone in and substituted a different lead gen offer that paid more than $10 per lead and doubled, tripled, or quadrupled the revenue almost overnight. So amazing opportunities to be found. One last example, demonishes.com, which is like this humor blog. 350,000 visits per month, 900,000 page views, half of all traffic from the US, page rank 4 site, only $500 in revenue, like completely under monetized. $500 per month in revenue this guy was making from 900,000 page views, and sold for $6,500. $6,500 to get that site that gets almost 1 million page views a month, half of it from the US. I mean, pretty cool. So those are some of the examples of deals that can be found on Flippa.com. Obviously, not every website will be good. There are overpriced websites. There are websites that don't have traffic, don't have revenue. There's a lot of made-to-sell websites being listed on Flippa.com as well. But if you're willing to sift through them, use our filtering tools to find websites that get significant traffic but have very low revenue, you can find some awesome deals. So on the flip side of the coin, if you're looking to sell an existing website or blog, I have a few tips as well that I want to quickly go over. There's a lot more information on our blog as well about all these topics for people who are interested in learning more. First and foremost, we have two options on Flippa when it comes to accepting bids. You can have all bids automatically accepted by our system, or you can choose to review all the bids and approve or deny them manually. I generally recommend approving bids manually. This gives you the opportunity to email with the bidder or talk to them on the phone or instant message and just find out where they're coming from and finding out how serious they are before we approve their bid. That way you're not dealing with time wasters or people who skip out on you in the last minute. Definitely want to talk to the buyers and sellers. Definitely want to have a conversation with the other party for larger deals on the telephone. When you're selling your website, you want to offer really long-term. When you're selling your website, you really want to look at the long-term traffic and revenue history, not just for the last couple of months. One of the tricks that people use on Flippa to try and inflate their traffic stats is rather than using Google Analytics, they'll post AW stats, which really inflates their numbers and is not accurate. AW stats is like this log file analysis tool that many web hosting companies provide. It might tell you, for example, that your site gets 10 million page views a month, but when you actually put AdSense codes on the site, it's probably like 1/10 of that. So it's really important not to try and use reliable analytics. When you're selling a website and even when you're buying a website for a large deal, Flippa provides a contract, like a legally binding contract they can have the other party sign, notarize, and even fax back to you. And we also provide a discount on a service called escrow.com, which basically helps transfer the money securely and safely. And we provide a 10% discount on all the escrow.com fees if you use our link. It's a lot safer than simply wiring the money to someone or using PayPal. When you're selling your website, you want to definitely keep your hype to a minimum and don't talk too much about potential. There's quite a few listings on Flippa.com that are being where someone is trying to sell them based on potential rather than what the website is doing. They'll boast in the headline and in the sales copy that this website has the potential to make $5,000 or $10,000 per month at some point in the future if all these things are done to it, and then they try and base the sale price off of that. But that's just very, very unrealistic. You should tell in your sales copy, in your listing description, you should be talking about what you have right now and not talk too much about all the future potential because people will not pay for potential. Just because your website can make $5,000 a month at some point in the future, then that's not going to be factored into the valuation that someone uses when they place their bid. And when you're selling your website, we allow auctions to be up to 30 days in length, but we found in the vast majority of cases that's really too long. So I recommend going with a much shorter auction period, usually 7 or 10 days. Gets people bidding faster, get the deal closed much faster as well. Other tips for selling your website. One of the things that people will constantly ask and email you about when you have an auction on Flippa.com is they'll try and ask you what your reserve price is. And the reason for that is they basically want to bid right at your reserve price, and they want to know, you basically don't want to waste their time. I generally think it's a really poor idea to give out your reserve price when running an auction. You want people to simply submit their best bid and get them involved in a competitive bidding process against other people. So if people ask you for your reserve price in general, I would recommend saying no and just ask them to submit their best offer based on all the information that you provided in your listing description. If you're selling a high value website on Flippa, for example, one that you expect to sell for more than $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, we offer this really cool featured listing upgrade, which basically bumps your listing to the homepage of Flippa.com, and you can buy this upgrade as many times as you want. And I really recommend it, especially if you're expecting a high selling price, because it will bring a lot more attention to your listing and will draw in more bidders. Other tips. At the bottom of your auction listing, there will be a public comments area for questions from potential bidders. And I recommend responding to each and every single comment posted and don't just ignore hard questions. It's really important to be as open and honest as possible because if people see a lot of deleted comments in your listing or if you're not answering questions publicly, that will scare off potential bidders. And one final hot tip, earlier I talked about how you have the option of manually approving all bids. One thing that is a really good strategy is to wait until you have 2, 3, 4, 5 different bids waiting for approval, and they can go on Flippa and approve all of the bids at the same time. And that will put your auction listing on the most active list on Flippa.com, which will bring more attention to your listing, more views, and potentially even more bidders. That's a really cool tip that we don't really talk about too much, but can bring a lot more attention to your listing without you having to spend any more money. So that's basically it from me. Definitely happy to answer any questions. If anybody on the webinar wants to get in touch with me, my email address is matt, M-A-T-T, @flippa.com.
All right, that sounds awesome. We're going to save all the questions to the end. Now,
okay.
Matt, you do have, I believe, a coupon code you can be giving us, right?
Yeah, I think I.
That's right. And now, if you can bring up the Flippa.com website and show people where to enter that coupon code.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, here it is, people. We have, well, for the first 100 people, Matt is giving the first 100 people who use this coupon code $20 of Flippa credits. And you can use this credit to upgrade your listing or do whatever you want with it. And Matt's going to bring that up and show you where to put the code in, and then we'll give you the code.
This code is good for people who have existing accounts as well as new users.
So if you're a new Flippa user or you're an existing Flippa user, you can use this code. So it's going to be a mad rush. I recommend everyone have Flippa.com open right now to get ready to enter the code.
So it'll actually be late in the checkout process. I don't know if you want me to go through all of this. That'll be towards the end of the checkout process. There will be a field where you can enter the code. This is we actually just revised our listing process a few days ago, so we have a much cleaner and easier process for checking out. But when you go onto the e-commerce, when you fill out all this information about your listing and go on to pay, you'll have the option of entering that coupon code for $20 off your listing, which I recommend applying towards upgrades or whatever. Yeah, I'd have to go through this entire thing to get to the checkout page, unfortunately.
Okay, so did we enter this code after they make the listing, or?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be on the e-commerce checkout page where you enter your credit card details. I don't think anybody wants to watch me spend the next 20 minutes creating a listing here.
Yeah, creating a listing. Well, we can do that. I suppose well, maybe we should do it after we hear Tyler and Zach do it. But anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to give it a coupon code. Okay, people. The coupon code is John Chow 2011. And you use that code, it'll give you $20 Flippa credit to use on Flippa.com. So here it is again. I'm gonna punch that code into the chat so everyone can see it. The coupon code John Chow 2011 will give you a $20 discount on any Flippa listing or Flippa services, and it's only for the first 100 people who use it. So use it now, or it'll probably be gone by the time this webinar is over. So there you go. All right. So thank you very much, Matt. You gonna go back to your vacation, or you gonna stick around? It's up to you.
I can stick around for another. I can stick around for another half an hour or something like that.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So what we're gonna do now is let's just switch over to Tyler, and Tyler is gonna show us a case study of deals that he done on Flippa and how much money he made from it. So I'm gonna switch it over to him. Tyler.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll just let everybody know that I'm just recovering from a bad cold. So if you hear me clearing my throat, just forgive me. So here's my slideshow, buying and selling websites on Flippa. I'll just give kind of a quick overview of my credentials in the area. I've been buying and selling websites for around 10 years now. I actually started originally by a long time ago, like maybe around 2001 or so. I used to buy sites on eBay, and they were basically just they were like actually pay-per-click search engines that were branded by using like a mascot and an icon. So it would be like pigsearch.com or frogsearch.com, and basically I would just buy them and then sell them. So that's kind of how I started. But then I started frequenting a really popular webmaster forum, SitePoint, which is kind of how actually how my blog really got started. That's the genesis of my blog. And as John mentioned, I actually met John there before I knew who he was. And so there used to be a marketplace on SitePoint, which I believe originally was free to post listings on for people to list their domains or websites for sale. But that became so popular that there were just so many listings on there that SitePoint needed to kind of limit how many were being posted because there were just so many. So then that became SitePoint Marketplace, which is when it changed to cost money to list your websites. And then that again changed to Flippa, which had its own complete dedicated site with a lot more features. And I've been using Flippa and SitePoint Marketplace for around 7 years now, or whenever it pretty much started. I've conducted almost 375,000 in past transactions. That includes buying and selling, just so you know. That's a rough figure, but yeah, it's pretty close to that amount. So I have a fair bit of experience in just doing a lot of transactions, going through the process. And 7 of my transactions were for over $10,000 or over. So we'll just get to the next slide here. So first, I'll have some tips and some guidelines for selling your site. I only have one slide for this. Everything else is for buying websites because I think that selling your site is pretty self-explanatory and pretty simple, and there's not really too much that you can do to really improve on that and to gain benefit from it. My first tip would be, and the most important tip, is definitely be completely and utterly transparent. Don't try to hide anything out. Divulge everything you can up front, even if there's bad stuff that happened to the site. Just say it. If your site was hacked and as a result the traffic died down during the past 2 months, just divulge that. The more that you divulge, and the more people will trust you, and the less questions they'll ask, and they'll less investigating into your site. So while it may seem like counterproductive to do that, trust me, it's really good to be completely transparent and honest. Next is very self-explanatory and common sense, but you should really write a really detailed description. Make sure that you did your spell check and it flows evenly, and it has its own individual sections. The more information you can put in the description, the less amount of questions people will be asking you later. And the more interested buyers will see that information and potentially become more interested in your listing. Again, just like the description, be sure to provide updated screenshots and images of your website and stats. And if if you have a CMS, be sure to include screenshots of what it looks like in the administration area, where people can view it from just going to the browser. Again, providing as much information as you can on your listing will just help alleviate any questions that potential bidders have. And as Matt, one of the comments Matt had in his presentation was, yeah, definitely respond to comments as soon as possible, both publicly and privately, because in Flip, you can also private message sellers. So yeah, the faster you respond to people, the more likely that they are to trust you, and know that you're serious about your listing and that you're helpful, and it just gets the information out there better. And this last little tip is something that I just came across in my last auction. I bought a site about 2 weeks ago on Flippa for around $12,000, and the day that it ended was actually a Saturday. Like that was it was an auction, and the end timeline was on a Saturday. And it was really interesting because on Friday night, that's when I made my first bid, I believe, and I put it in at around, I think it was like 4,000 or so, maybe 3 or 4,000, and there were only like 9 or 10 bids at that time. But then what happened is, since the next day was Saturday, there were just it is normal for you know the final hours for there to be a lot more bids, but I really believe that since it ended on a Saturday, a lot more people were home, they weren't at work, and they were just able to look at that auction and to bid. I think if you ended your auction on, say, a Monday night or like a Tuesday night, it's less likely that people will be watching the auction and try to make a last-minute bid. So, and I actually asked the seller later, did you plan this? Like, did you plan to end it on a Saturday? Because, you know, it just had so many bids after. I mean, it had 40 bids. 40 bids. It's 30 bids overnight, just because it ended on Saturday. And he said yes, that was actually his intention. So when you're creating your listing, I would recommend that you look for how long you're running it. So if you choose to run it for 7 days or 2 weeks, just make sure that it will end on a Saturday or a Sunday even. It's a little good tip there. So, and then everything else, all of my guidelines and tips are for buying websites, because I think that's where you can really harness the power of flipping websites. So my first one here is to jump in on early opportunities, like be the first one in. One example is like I'm a big gamer, and I used to be really into a game called StarCraft by Blizzard. Most of you have probably heard of it. And for the longest time, StarCraft, it was just StarCraft and had its expansion pack. And it's really popular game, extremely popular. It's like almost like a nationwide sport in Korea, in South Korea. And then on, I think it was May 23rd, 2007, Blizzard announced that they were officially going to make StarCraft 2. And that was huge news. Everybody was, waiting for StarCraft 2, but people could, gave up hope because it was like 10 years since the original StarCraft came out. And once I heard that news, I immediately went out and just purchased as many StarCraft domains as I could. I didn't list them here, but I had about 2 dozen at least, and I just sold those here and there, made good profit on those actually, and I bought them all. They were just unregistered because StarCraft 2 wasn't announced, so not many people bought those type of domains. And then for the StarCraft2.net domain, I just contacted the owner. It was basically just a basic website like that was put up, and it was owned by a kid. I think he was like 16 or 18 or so. And I just phoned him and offered him some money for it. And long story short, I bought it for $1,000, that domain, and which was great because he was extremely happy. I think he was not expecting that he would get $1,000 for it. And then same thing with sc2.net. I went and I just looked up the WHOIS information, contacted the owner, and I bought that for, I think it was like $450, and he again was very happy to sell it to me too. And the interesting about that domain is I think he had no idea of what StarCraft was. He just bought the domain because it was nice and short. So I invested around $2,300 for those 2 domains. And that also includes, because later on I made StarCraft2.net into a simple forum. So that includes like the vBulletin license and a little bit of design work. So I invested $2,300, and then I sold it on Flippa. I think it was last year. I sold it right about, I think it was like a week maybe after StarCraft 2 was finally released to the public, and that's when like the search volume was at its highest and at its peak, and that's generally the best time to sell anything, is when it's at its peak. And anyway, so I sold it for $16,500, And I did mention that I sold it last year, so that means I did have to wait about 2.5 or 3 years. But the point is, I wasn't doing anything. Like once I bought the domains and put up a simple website, I didn't do anything else. I didn't have to touch it. It was just up. And I knew that once StarCraft 2 was released, that I'd be able to sell it for a good amount. So that's a good like ROI there. It was a $2,000 investment and $16,000 back, so about a $14,000 profit. Moving on. While it's good to jump in on early opportunities, just be really careful about legal issues such as trademarks and copyrights. StarCraft is actually would be trademarked by Blizzard, but I knew that Blizzard is extremely fan friendly, and that they actually link, or they used to link to like starcraft.org, which was a fan site, but they used to link to them on their website, and there's a ton of World of Warcraft websites, and I knew that Blizzard was really fan friendly in that regard, so I wasn't really worried about having to hand over the domains or being sued or anything like that. However, I used to own halflife.org, and actually I also used to use I also used to own WrestleMania.org, and those domains scared me. First of all, halflife.org scared me because Valve, which is the parent company of Half-Life, they have been known to acquire their intellectual property and sue people. So I was scared of that. And WrestleMania, I was definitely scared of Vince McMahon and the WWE. They sue a lot too. So I got rid of those as soon as I could. So I would avoid any type of websites or domains that you could possibly see legal trouble, unless you know or you have a really good idea that they won't go after you. So if somebody, even if it has this high traffic, if there's a site like that's called, I don't know, like googleideas.net, you want to avoid that because somebody else already owns that trademark, that copyright. Tip number 2 for buying websites is I would highly recommend that you look for diamonds in the rough. The bigger the improvement, the better the return on investment. So what a lot of people do, what a lot of buyers do, is they just look for really good websites, right? And it's kind of your first intuition to do that, your first reaction. But if you think about it, you're not really going to be able to flip it for much if it's already at its prime. If it's at its prime, or if it's already really good, it means that it's going to be priced and sold for a relative value. But if it's just kind of like flipping houses. If you buy a nice house, you're not going to flip it for a lot of money, other than maybe waiting on it for a number of years. But there's no work you can do to it to really improve it. Whereas if you bought really a house that needed a lot of work, and you kind of renovated it and flipped that, you can make profit off of that. So it's really similar for websites. You want to look for a website that needs work, or maybe it doesn't need work, but it can be improved by a lot. So brings me to my next step about buying based on your strengths. So, for example, everybody's good at something or another. They're better at one thing or another. And for me, I'm a lot better at kind of revamping websites, giving it a new design, really working on the programming, making sure that it's really good user interaction, and just making a really good solid website. What I'm not good at is building traffic. So I've never been really good at just driving a lot of new quality traffic to a website and just growing it. I've just never been good at that. It's never been one of my strengths. So therefore, when I'm looking for websites, I'm looking for websites that already have traffic, but they look crappy. They look really bad, badly designed, poorly. The programming is really crappy, because I know that there's developers and designers that I've hired. I know that I can just hire them and really improve the website that way. So your strengths and weaknesses will vary depending on who you are, but try to think about that when buying a website. And yeah, I kind of touched on this already, but look for a website's true potential. And Matt also touched on this. There's a lot of websites out there that aren't monetized properly, and you can actually get a good deal on them just because the owner didn't really know very much about monetizing or very much about making money online. Um, so if you see a website that, well, Matt had a really good example in his, like that loan website was really a really good example where the guy was just, I think he was using AdSense and a $10 loan offer. There's so many affiliate networks that have tons of home loan type offers, and they usually pay out more like $40 to $60. So if you just switch that offer, as Matt suggested, you could quadruple your money just by doing that. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, and we're going to move on to due diligence. I know a lot of people they have a lot of questions about this. They commented in like Zach and my blog about this, asking, what do you do about due diligence? The first and foremost thing that I look at is the seller's trust rating. So every member on Flippa has a trust rating. It's basically like a feedback rating or a trader rating. So if you used eBay before, it's basically like the feedback rating. It doesn't only give you points on how many past transactions you've done. It also goes a bit step further. It makes you like prove your identity in a number of ways. So, for example, if you verify your phone number, or you get extra points. The older your account is, you get points. Feedback, of course, you get points, and if you link your Facebook and LinkedIn accounts, you get points. So basically, the higher the person's trust rating, the more you can trust them. Now, that's not the only thing you want to base your due diligence on, but I think that speaks a lot. I mean, if you just compare these two screenshots I put, these are just two random people that I was looking at on Flippa that I made for this presentation. And you can see that this person, they only have one, like that's their total score because they verified a phone number. But their account is less than a year old. They've had no past feedback in the last year. They haven't connected any of these, which is kind of strange because why wouldn't you do this, So you would want to be pretty wary of this user. It doesn't mean that you want to necessarily just avoid them entirely, but it speaks a lot to how much you might want to trust them. Likewise, or whereas if you look at this person, we've got much higher trust rating, so you don't have to worry too much about this person. You can pretty much have a good idea that you can trust them. One thing, I don't know if Matt is still listening or not, but one thing that I'd like to recommend that Flippa kind of implements is that you can see here, well, I'm not sure what it says for, but you get feedback based on the number of past transactions. I think it'd be nice if you actually got more feedback, or there was a separate like area for it, depending on the amount of the listing. So, for example, if you sold a website that was $10,000 or $100,000, you would get appropriately more points for that, because somebody could have a number here like 20, but they may have just sold or bought listings that were sold for like $50 each. And that's also a good point, because you can actually look at people's past transactions. So even if somebody has a good number here, you might want to just check and see if there were any decently high valued ones before. And if somebody, and maybe be a bit wary if somebody had listed 20 $100 auctions in a row, and then their next one was for $100,000. You might want to be a little bit careful about that. Okay, moving on to my next slide here. Just some more due diligence for the when you are buying a website. You might want to be a bit wary of slow and unhelpful responses. Not so much just because it might hint towards their legitimacy, but don't forget that after you buy it, it's not over. The process isn't over. You're going to still have to. They're going to have to help you, or they should help you. Transfer everything over to your website, like over to your server rather, and send you everything, and conduct the and finish the escrow process. If somebody isn't really helpful before while you're trying to buy it from them, you have to think how helpful will they be when you need to actually transfer it over to your site and have things over, like transfer the domains and everything over. Maybe they'll take them 2 months to do that. So the faster and more helpful they are, the more the faster and more helpful you can expect them to be after the transaction. Also, don't be afraid, and Matt touched on this as well, but don't be afraid to talk on the phone or Skype. Let me just take a quick drink here. Especially for the higher transactions. If somebody isn't willing to talk to you on the phone, that kind of raises a little bit of a red flag. I know myself, I'm really shy, but if I'm doing a transaction for like $50,000, I want to at least talk to the person's voice, hear them on the phone or Skype. Just make sure that that they're not afraid to talk to you, via voice. And make sure they're not like a 12-year-old. And Matt also touched on this, but it never hurts to Google the seller's name and website. And you can get some additional information from Whois. Just doing this, you never know what that might bring up. I've personally done this before and have seen a lot of red flags from the Google listings, just from people saying that this guy can't be trusted or whatnot, or sometimes you see that he tried to list it on other websites other than Flippa in the past, like a number of times, and people complained that it didn't go through or whatnot. So it never hurts to do a quick background check on Google. And now for the due diligence on the website instead of the seller. First, try to get as much proof as you can. I know that Flippa already, they do a pretty good job of making the seller be as honest as possible already, but try to get even more proof. The more proof you have, just the more comfortable you can be in making a bid, especially if there's a bidding war, right? You want to be sure that that the website is what it says it is, and all of the stats are what they say they are. So don't be afraid to ask for more screenshots of stats and anything like that. And then you should also ask for analytics, like Google Analytics access, not just screenshots. So on Flippa, you can usually see if the seller uploads it, you can see a screenshot of or a PDF of their analytics information. But if the seller is willing, try to get actual access to it, which means that you can actually log into Google Analytics yourself and look at all of the individual data and date ranges, everything, not just a particular screen. So it's always good to do that. And it also prevents any possible like photoshopping of the screenshot stats. Understand that sellers write their listing descriptions the same way they write their resumes. I think this is very true. And Matt again touched on this, but so many people over-exaggerate their listing. I would say actually 95% of listings over-exaggerate. They all say like, oh, premium domain, premium website gets all this traffic. Just remember that when people write their resumes, they usually they will almost always just say their best shining moments and often overindulge a little bit. And people do the same thing on their listing descriptions most of the time. So keep that in mind when making a bid and when doing your due diligence, that everything that they wrote is probably the ultimate best that they could possibly have done. So when people are showing their stats and their screenshots and their income screenshots, just you should always think that is the particular best time, peak traffic time, peak income time that website had. And of course, this is obvious, but you should always use Alexa, Compete, Quantcast, etc. All those different website metric tools to just make sure that the website is kind of in the traffic range and popularity range that the seller states it is. And ask as many questions as you can. Just don't be afraid and don't be concerned about asking too many. I'm never shy about asking. The more you ask, the more you'll know about the website, and again, the more you'll feel comfortable in making a bid. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll just finish by saying that escrow.com is your safety net. So even though I had a few slides on due diligence, you can always remember that escrow.com will help you in in the case that something does go wrong. And it kind of forces the buyer or the seller, or the buyer and the seller, to be completely legitimate, because your money is held in escrow, and you're not going to get it, or you're not going to the website until both parties completely agree that everything they got was as they said it was. And I'll also just state that it's a very simple tip, but when you make your escrow description, I would really recommend that you say that this is not, don't just say that this is for the website like john.com. Say that it's for john.com as seen, as described in this listing, and then link to the exact Flippa listing. That way, if any disputes come in the future, you can say that, hey, I was also supposed to get the script with this website, not just the domain. So it's just good to link in the escrow description to the Flippa URL. And that's my presentation, and thanks for watching. John?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Tyler. All right, we are now going to switch over to Zach, and Zach is going to do his presentation, and then we'll take questions after that. So switching over to Zach now. Hey, Zach, you're on.
All right, hello everybody. Zach Johnson here. I'm going to try and show you guys some new stuff, but also not cover what Matt and Tyler also talked about. So let's get started. For anyone who doesn't already know, I'm Zach Johnson from zachjohnson.com. Been an affiliate marketer, blogger, website owner, all that good stuff since 1996. My biggest purchase through Flippa.com was for a website called bloggingtips.com. The first picture shows what it looked like when I bought it, and the one in red is a new design that I just went with it. It's doing pretty well, doubled almost in size since purchasing it. The main attraction there was I actually knew Kevin, the guy who ran the website, and there's a lot of content on there, and it kind of blends in with everything that I currently have going on, so it was a great addition. Some of the reasons why I really love Flippa is that it's a whole established network of people who own websites and people who want to buy websites. So it's just continually growing every day with new content that really interests you. And what's really great is that you can see the different ways that people are building websites, coming up with new ideas, and how they're monetizing it. And Flippa is always giving me new ideas and stuff I never even thought of. So it's great to see other people just coming up with ideas. And if they don't know how to, if they know how to build a website and come up with the idea, but they don't know how to monetize it, that's really where you can come in and find some great deals. As mentioned, I bought bloggingtips.com, and I don't really sell too much on Flippa. I'm all about buying. So I bought Flippa, I bought bloggingtips.com, and I'm pushing around almost to the six-figure mark of websites that I purchased. And I usually buy smaller websites that I can just add into my network and build them up over time. And here's what I look for when I'm trying to find a website to purchase. I'd like to stay with what I know. There's a lot of great websites out there on Flippa, and some of them can make money in the long run, but if I have no idea what the website's about, I'm probably going to lose interest, and I'm not going to stay as dedicated as I would be if it was something I was actually interested in already working on. So try and stay focused and not just look at the bottom number of what the profit will be, but also that you'll be interested and you'll want to stick around and grow that website over the years to come. And how can you make a website better? As I mentioned, there's a ton of websites out there, and people might be good at making websites and not so much about the marketing aspect. So see what type of business relationships that you already have that you can put into any other website that's listed. Do you have better ways to monetize the website? And can you possibly double the numbers of what they're advertising and flip that website for double or even triple the money in a few months? Website earnings and what they're worth. It's really vast and it goes all over the place. You see websites selling for 10 times monthly earnings all the way up to 100 times earnings. It sounds crazy, but once there's a bidding war, you never know how high it's going to get. People are buying both on monetization and potential and revenue. So it's a whole game of back and forth. Let's go through some case studies to better explain what websites are going for and maybe give you an idea of what you could sell a website for. This one was for awkwardboners.com. It's kind of a controversial name, but again, it sold for $8,200, and it was only making around $64 profit a month. So that's 128 times monthly profit. Had a high page rank of 5, and it was in the top 100,000 of Alexa, and it was mentioned on some really high blogs. I know one of the guys from Jackass mentioned it, and it has a lot of viral potential. So if the right person buys this website, they could really make a lot of money and possibly flip it again, or it could even become like the next collegehumor.com. I was looking through the directory today and found minecraftskins.com. I didn't know what this was, but it's a huge online game that people are playing. And this website sold for $76,000. Had 31 bids, has a lot of natural traffic. That's what everybody was attracted to on this one. And it was making over $2,000 a month just from a small AdSense ad. So there was no paid advertising. This guy was just ranked right up there for Minecraft. All these people were going to Google looking for how to make skins for their characters. And they all came to this website, clicked on Google AdSense ads, and he was making like $3,000 a month just replacing a small ad. And now he's flipped everything he made and got $76,000 out of it. Another website, fungamesforgirls.com. This is just an example of an excellent auction that is a full package. It has Google PageRank. It has solid monthly revenue where people come in every month to play games, clicking on ads. It has real content. This person has all the screenshots and stats and had over 65 bids. And it actually sold for 40 times monthly profit. Now here's an example of the bidding process when it comes to the end of an auction. And you can see bidder number 28, who ended up in second place, only lost the auction by $50. So you really have to measure the amount that you're bidding, because that $50 on a $6,000 bid, that's less than 1% of what he was actually going to pay for the website. So he lost that website for basically nothing. This is the website that I purchased, bloggingtips.com, and this was the final bidding process. I was bidder number 6. I came in at $48,900 after going all the way through $15,000, watching the other bidders, and it was coming really close to the buy it now price of $60,000. And I had to measure, is it worth it for me to lose this website? So I just went for the $60,000 purchase buy it now, which was a 20% increase, but the previous bidder was already at $49,000. So if he goes up another 10%, he's at $55,000, and then I could potentially lose the website for just a fraction of what I actually wanted to bid. The winning formula to create an auction that's going to get sales, get a lot of attention, you want to list as many details as you can. You want to tell everyone why you're selling the website, and be honest. A lot of people are on there saying that they need it for an investment of something else, and who on? Yeah, it works. Just tell them how it is. How do you want to manage the website, whether it be a program or a database? List all that information. The most crucial information that you want to list is screenshots and stats. AdSense, where you're making money, who your link partners are, where the traffic is coming from. Make sure that your site is also fully functional. You don't want people going to your website and seeing that it's been hacked or it's down, links not working. That's a total turnoff. People are going to be commenting on your auction all the time. Make sure you're there to answer it. They're going to be sending direct messages or even a phone call or whatever. Just make sure you're there, because that's one of the biggest turnoffs if you're trying to spend money on something and that someone's not there to reply to your response. And there's 2 ways to run an auction. You can either have your reserve with the buy it now, or you can just let it go to the sky. I like having the buy it now option as a buyer because I could simply buy it. But as a seller, you could possibly get a lot more for your website. So weigh those options before making your listing go live. That's pretty much everything I had on Flippa. I didn't want to throw in too much of what both Tyler and Matt said. So if you have any other questions, check out zachjohnson.com or shoot me an email. John?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Zach. What we're going to do is now, I'm going to open up the room for questions, and you can ask any question. If you look at your control panel, you will see a hand icon, and this will allow you to raise your hand, and then you'll be able to ask us a question, and everyone will be able to hear you. Now, keep in mind, this is being recorded. So if you raise your hand and you're speaking, keep in mind that we are recording you. So if you don't want to be recorded, you can type your question into the chat, and we can read the question of that. So I see some hands are up. Let me go to the hands and see who's up, and who has the hands up. I will ask a question. All right. I think there you go. Or just disappear. Right here. Unmute.
Hello?
No, hello, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, what's your question?
Sorry, my microphone might be staticky. Well, thank you very much for doing this. It means a lot to all of us, I'm sure. I think that this is great. I have you said before we can ask a question basically about anything online, and I figured this would be my only opportunity to speak with you guys. I own a company during the day, and I've been learning how to code and about all this stuff, through the Warrior forums and everything at nighttime. So it's been a very slow learning process, and I haven't made much money yet. But through all three of you, what's a good way to I know a lot of people probably ask this question, what's a good way to start that doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money, that really you could put your work into instead and start making some money on the internet, or start generating some traffic to your site, just as like a quick one-nighter, something to work on all night.
Okay. Any of you guys got any thoughts? I'll give you my tip first. Just for starting out, you don't want to spend a lot of money. I would say basically keep in mind long term. Think long term. Just keep plugging away at it and be persistent. Like I have a personal goal that I do 2 blog posts every day, and that's a personal goal I do myself, and it's a personal commitment by me that I would never let a day go by on my blog without a new blog post. And like I said, ever since my blog's been up, there has never been a single day in the blog's history where there's never been a new blog post. And I believe that level of consistency is what has allowed my blog to enjoy the success that it has. I'm sure maybe Zach, Matt, and Tyler can get in on this.
Yeah, sure. One idea I have is if you want to push an affiliate-based product or something, you can go out there and try and get an exact match domain name for a specific product or item out there, and then just keep adding content to it. Promote it through article marketing, doing backlinks. I cover a bunch of this stuff on the blog, not trying to promote it, but trying to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But that's something that really won't make you a ton of money, but it won't cost you money at the same time. And it's something that you can grow over time. And if it's making a couple hundred a month, you could even throw it on Flippa and get maybe 10 to 20 times earnings.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I would mention, because it's actually quite a difficult question, even though it's simple. It's basically asking like how to get started. If you mean what's the best way to get started making money online, what I personally like to do, what I like to tell people when they're starting out, because I don't know your level, right? I don't know if you're completely new or not. But if you're pretty much completely new, you don't really know how to make a website or anything. One of the fastest ways to start making money online is and the most safest ways is to buy and sell domains. That way you don't have to actually make a website or do anything with a website. All you have to do is just look for a good domain, or register a good domain, and then just try to sell it for more than you buy it for. And then once you get used to that, you can parlay into other areas online.
Okay. Next, Stephen. Stephen, how you doing? Oh, wait a minute. Let me connect his audio here. Stephen, how you doing? Stephen, can you turn up your TV in the background? I think Stephen's in the middle of a fight right now. Okay, well, we're going to get back to Stephen, we'll go on to our next caller. All right, Ben Lang.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ben, what's up?
Hey, so I'm from epiclaunch.com. Thinking about possibly selling a site of mine. I'm having problems though with the page rank. I don't know if you have experience with this, but like a year ago I did a 301 redirect, and ever since that the page rank hasn't gone back up, and I think it's preventing me from selling it for a higher price. I was wondering if anyone has any experience with that.
Well, from my experience, Google PageRanks are generally done once every quarter or so.
Yeah.
How Google determines its PageRank is pretty much anybody's guess, really. Only Google knows.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it has something to do with the redirect I did, but I mean there are like 40,000 links pointing to the site. I just don't know why the page rank hasn't gone back up.
All right, so what you're saying on the last update is kind of like it just went down on you, and then it never came back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could really be anything. It could just be that page rank, it's not really relevant anymore. It kind of stopped being relevant a number of years ago. Just case in point, like my blog it's like a 2 or 3 or 1, and like a site I sold, pokerforums.org, I sold like a month ago. That's like I think a 3 or so. So it could just be that Google decided to just give you a low page rank for no reason. Regarding the 301, it, from my experience, it should happen pretty quickly, at least insofar as search results, because I merged 2 of my sites, movieforums.org, which was like number 1 or 2 on Google for movie forums, and I merged it with movievault.com. And shortly after, like maybe even a week or so or less, MovieVault started ranking for movie forums at like number 2 or 3. So I noticed that the 301 for at least search terms happened pretty much right away. But I actually didn't notice any improvement on my page rank when I did that. So I don't know if it could have just been that you kind of coincided with a lower page rank update from Google, or maybe as John said, it just the page rank update hasn't really affected your site yet.
Okay, thanks a lot.
The other thing
I think the actual rankings.
Oh, yeah, I just
I
got
think the actual rankings for your site.
Actual ranking for the site. Now, I think the other thing you should check is check your robots.txt file. There might be something in it that's preventing Google from indexing certain stuff.
I mean, it's in the search results. It's just the page rank is still at 0, even though it was at 3 before the redirect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any warnings in Google Webmaster Tools?
No, everything's fine there.
Yeah, then it just you just have to basically have to wait till the next Google update and see, and hopefully see what happens. Like your other alternative is basically to go to like a search engine trade show, call them Matt Cutts, and just ask them.
Yeah, I was actually at the Google offices in New York, but they couldn't really help me.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, next we have, let's talk to Gregory here. Let me unmute Greg. Gregory Young, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine. What's your question?
Great. Do you guys have any favorite or recommended search filters to use on Flippa when browsing for sites to buy?
Zach, Matt?
Well, what I personally do is I don't really use the filters, but what I do is I kind of just scroll down the screen and kind of keep my eye on the 2 columns, the revenue column and the traffic column, and then any numbers that I kind of see that are like 5 digits or higher, then I kind of look at closely. The reason I don't use filters is just because you can always, there might be a site that you filter out that you miss, and I don't really like to filter out anything just for that reason alone. So instead, I just like to skim results. For example, because I used to do that, and then I noticed that there were sites that sold that I didn't see as a result, or even like a good domain that had no traffic or no income, but because I filtered it out, I just missed out on that. So I personally don't really use the filters, but I just kind of scroll down the screen and search for those 2 columns.
My 3 favorite filters are the featured listings, because people have to pay to get featured on the Flippa homepage. So generally means they have something more valuable to sell and they're willing to invest money in advertising it. Tells you that they're serious, and it's a high value website. The other filters I really like is the most active tab on flippa.com, which shows you the websites and the auctions are getting the most activity and the most bids over the last 24 or 72 hours. So that tells you what other people think is valuable in the Flippa marketplace at that given point in time. And my 3rd favorite filter is just the price range drop-down menu, where you can sort and look only at high-end websites, which would be like the cream of the crop. Those are probably over $10,000. that would have the highest amount of traffic and the highest amount of revenue.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question, Greg. We are going next to, amazing enough, President Barack Obama is on the line here. So, Mr. President, are you there? Okay, I guess the president is too busy with the budgets or stuff. Let's see. I gone back off to the White House. Okay. Let's see what. Carlos? Hello, Carlos. You're on the air. Maybe Carlos might not looking at her. We're coming up to a let's go to Narinda.
Yes, I can.
Hi. Yeah, we can
Hello?
hear you. You have a question for
Yeah.
us?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, that's good. I've seen in the Warrior Forum, one of the guy was selling some sites without any traffic. That means he's procuring some surveys. He's putting a website, and he's offering some logo services. And behind the scenes, he's acquiring some service provider as well. And then he's selling the sites like as a service site without any traffic. It's really weird. Is there any, can I sell the sites without any traffic in the Flippa?
Yes, you can. There's hundreds and hundreds of websites like I list on Flippa every month that are basically brand new startup sites. They have a design, they have content, they have a WordPress install. They don't have any traffic and they don't have any revenue. A year ago, those websites could be sold for $500 to $1,000 even. Someone who was looking to get started and just wanted a launching platform for their web business. But people have found out how to create these websites cheaper and cheaper, and the price of these websites have declined significantly. But yeah, you can definitely still sell a website without any traffic and without any revenue for $200, $300, $400 maybe.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people, what they do is they just like use a WordPress theme, develop a site, put some content on it, and then just try to sell it on Flippa. And a lot of people actually does that.
That's right.
Okay, let's try. Rick, are you there? Hello, Rick. We can't hear you, Rick. Okay. Let's try Larry Livingston.
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. First question is for Matt. I actually already typed it into the chat box, but I've purchased several websites through Flippa, and I go there occasionally now. It seems like there's a overabundance, or it's trending towards that, of these auto blogs that were thrown up yesterday. And also there's, for instance, domain names where somebody will list a worthless domain for, $1 million+ dollars. It just seems like it's kind of diluting your brand. And I just wonder if you had any opinions about that.
We're definitely aware of those problems and the fact that many people are not interested in those types of websites or those types of assets. That's why we're constantly working to improve the search and filtering functionality, so you can only see the websites that are most relevant and most interesting to you. And we're also providing more options for the sellers of more valuable websites and more valuable domain names to stand out. For example, with the featured listings on the Flippa homepage, those actually cost quite a lot of money, and people who have these startup websites that are making no traffic and no revenue are very unlikely to invest in having their listing placed in that section of our website. So it tends to attract more of the serious sellers.
Okay. Now, next we have, let's try You know, if you, I see a lot of hands up, but also see, you know, we actually already talked to you before. So if you raise your hand and your question was answered, if you could put your hands down, that'd be kind of cool because I see a lot of repeats. Okay, good, thank you. All right, Pete, are you there?
Hello, yes?
Hi, Pete.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for taking my call. I am pretty much a newbie to this, but I do have over 100 domain names, and I'm looking to try to start monetizing some of them. And basically, I guess I'm not real good with, actually, I don't know how to design a website at all. And that's basically what I'm trying to do, is to find out whether you think the easier way to do it would be to start a blog or to find a cheap way to get a design for some of the sites. And if so, who would you recommend to do cheap sites that's easy and dummy-proof for someone like myself?
Well, for me, the easiest would be to do a blog and just use a theme that you can license theme that you can use over and over again. Basically, like hiring a designer, getting it custom coded entails a pretty high cost. Whereas if you just get WordPress and just a reseller's hosting account that allows you to put as many sites or blogs onto your domain, onto the web host, it's a lot cheaper way to go because WordPress is free and there are a whole bunch of themes that are free, or you can just buy some premium theme, and that many of the themes, premium themes such as Thesis or whatever, allow you to easily change color, look, and feel. So you can create some kind of customized looks for all the sites that you have. And it's just a lot easier to update that way too, because most bloggers or most people will know how to run WordPress. So if you're trying to build an entire network of sites, it'd be a lot easier to hire writers because, like I said, most of them will know how to write WordPress, so they don't have to. There's not a learning curve to learning a custom-made CMS, so to speak. So that's, I would definitely go for the blog route and the premium theme route. I don't know, maybe Zach or any other guys have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I would say head over to Elance and you can find a designer and or even a team, and they'll simply set every one of your domains up with WordPress, and then you can find another person on Elance that will write articles for you, and you can have them work together. One guy will set up all of the WordPress on the domains. The other one will set up all the blog posts to schedule weekly, monthly, daily, whatever you want. But it's out of your hands and it's automated. It's kind of simple work that you can pay people to do on a pretty cheap basis, but at the same time it'll build up your websites. You can throw any type of advertisements on it you want, but it'll give you an idea of what type of domains. If you have hundreds of them, you're not going to want to spend a lot of time on each of them. You're going to want to see which ones are indexing, where people are going to, and then once you have a good 10 or 20% of them producing traffic, focus on those ones and give them premium themes with more content and better advertising options.
Yeah, you should definitely also stay away from just like using free content articles. Go for the unique stuff. This is why, hiring a team, either a Elance or there's another website that way you can just like make bids on it. Like you just tell them how many articles you want, and then tell them how much you want to pay, and actually just how many articles you want, and companies in India or Philippines will bid on it. I forgot the name of I forgot the URL of that company. Zach, remember? I can't remember now.
You can go to Google and type in outsource writing or anything like that, and there's a ton of companies. Depending on the amount of articles you buy, it'll range anywhere from $3 an article up to $10. So look around on Google and you can test them and see which one works best.
Yeah. 365 outsource is another. That's one you can use. They provide outsource copywriting. But yeah, there's a whole bunch. But basically, you definitely want to automate it because we're talking about a whole bunch of domain. Stop, go by theme. Start with just like a set of 10 domains and develop those, and then to go from there. It's kind of like the old throw it on the wall and see what sticks approach. All right. Thank you very much. We'll go back here to Stephen. Are you there?
He wants justice. He wants his back put away. So you still live there?
Turn up
Yeah,
your
I moved.
TV.
I came to the United States all about. So you moved in there when you were 9. Yeah.
Okay, Stephen's too busy watching TV. So okay. Like I said, if we did answer your question, please put your hand down because I do see some hands that are still up. Doreen Malone? Hello?
Yes, when you're buying domains, this, I guess the question is mainly for Tyler. Do you register them publicly or privately? What's the benefit to either one of those? And also, I know that when you're going to flip a domain name, that sometimes there's a period of time that you can't transfer the domain. So which domain registrars would you recommend in order to just strictly for the purpose of buying domains and flipping them?
Yeah, good questions. I'll answer your second one first. Let me just lower my volume so I don't get too much feedback. I personally use GoDaddy. I actually have used GoDaddy to host all of my domains. I know that a lot of people don't like GoDaddy because, well, actually, I know Zach really doesn't like GoDaddy now, but they have extremely good tech support. So if you ever have a problem, they will help you. I actually a number of times I typed in the wrong spelling of a domain and registered it and paid for it. But actually, if you just go on and like phone them and tell them you did that, they'll refund it like right away. So they have really good tech support. I also like GoDaddy because transferring domain from GoDaddy to another GoDaddy account is like instant pretty much. And they're also they're really pretty good at transferring from other registrars as well. On the last transaction I did, which was from Namecheap to GoDaddy, that was a big mess because Namecheap took just to be an ass. They took the maximum amount of time they could before they would send it over to GoDaddy. So ICANN, which is like the international registry of domains, basically has a rule where when you transfer from one domain to another, it must be no longer than 5 days, and Namecheap decides to automatically send it on the 5th day. So just because of that, it took almost a week to just get my domain over. So I would for that I would recommend GoDaddy. And your first question, whether you when and whether you should use private WHOIS registration. Well, for me, I use private. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory when you don't really want people to know that you're running it. But for me, a good example is all of my affiliate websites. They all have a private registration because there's different tools, kind of like domaintools.com and other services where you can actually just enter somebody's WHOIS information and search what other domains they own. And I don't want people knowing what affiliate marketing sites I run because I don't want them to copy me and saturate the particular niche I'm in. So for those sites, they are all in private. But for everything else, they're all just public information. There's no reason to hide my information. And there's also the point that private registration costs a bit more, like $10 a year or so. So yeah, pretty much just on my affiliate sites I run it, and any other sites where I just don't want people to be able to find that I own them.
All right. Yeah, for myself, on all the sites that I control that I'm developing, I set to private simply because I don't. Yeah, I actually receive phone calls from people who found my phone number through a domain registration. So I set them private myself. But other stuff I don't really care about. I would just leave it open. All right. So we're going to Pete. Are you there, Pete? Pete Regala?
Yes, I am. I already asked the question. I appreciate your answers.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
I was the one with the 100. I was the one with the domains and how.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. If you can put your hands down on your control panel so it doesn't show up again, that'll be kind of cool. Thank you. All right. I think the last one here is Matt. And that'll be the last of the hands. Matt, are you there? Hello, Matt?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
I saw in one of your videos, you are in the Richmond Park,
Yes.
and my girlfriend lives in Richmond, near Mineral Street,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a few websites, but I'm not making any money, and I don't know if this is, like, I understand, like, you can make money, but I feel like the average person, maybe it's very difficult for me to learn how to. So then I
So
have two
basically,
questions.
you want some beginner's tip, is that it?
If possible, I would love to meet you. And
Okay.
how can I get like a targeted traffic to my website?
Okay, target traffic. Okay. Well, we'll take the first few questions. First of all, I actually no longer live in Richmond, so right now I'm down in Bellevue. I mean, I live in West Vancouver, and I also but at the moment I'm down here in Bellevue, Washington. But I will be back in Vancouver towards the end of this month. So, and I'm up in Vancouver, at the end of this month, I host a weekly get-together where we go out for Vietnamese beef noodle soup. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll get the time and location, and you are certainly most welcome to join us. And we can go over. We just talk about whatever stuff. It's just a friendly, no pressure meetup of vloggers and internet marketers, and we host that every week. Right? So you're certainly welcome to do that. As for if you have some website, how you want to monetize it without actually seeing the site, basically we recommend you, for new guys, I just recommend you go download my ebook. In addition, you can also go download Zach Johnson's ebook. There's lots of tips and lots of information on there on how to monetize, how to get traffic, and basically a whole bunch of beginner tips you can use from that. So definitely check on that. Okay, I don't see any more hands up. We actually got a lot of hands. That's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read some of the questions from the chat room and see and give it to our panelists here and have them answer it. Okay, this question is for Matt. I'm not sure if Matt still here. Okay, Matt is still here. Okay, and it says here, oh, actually, I think that person was a great percentage of this. Yeah, okay, that person actually asked that question live, so we got that. We got rid of that one. 7 to 14 days to sell a business or website seems like a short time to generate a reasonable activity. How big is the Flippa community?
In terms of the number of registered users, it's tens of thousands, and we're placing bids to the tune of hundreds of different bids every single day. So in the last 7 days alone, we sold $1.7 million worth of websites. It's very, very active, very, very large.
Yeah. So 7 to 14 days is pretty much fine then.
For most websites, if you're selling a website that's worth 6 figures, obviously it's going to be a long closing process. Even after someone wins the auction or you win the auction, it's going to be a lot of negotiating, contracts, escrow, etc. that has to happen. You might even want to get lawyers involved if it's a particularly large deal. But for most transactions of a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, a 7 to 14 day auction is more than sufficient to get exposure to all the potential buyers and get them to place their bids.
Does Flippa involve any taxes, or are there any tax implications for buying or selling a website?
It really depends on where you live, but when you're selling a website, it might be considered a capital gain that you have to declare on your tax return. When you're buying a website, you might be able to depreciate it. But again, talk to your accountant about where you live. But you do have to report all income to the IRS in the US or Revenue Canada in Canada. So it's not a tax-free business, that's for sure.
Oh. I am selling a website for $100 that gets 2 million hits. I just don't want it anymore. Oh, I would say listen to Flippa then. Okay. What about pricing, value, ability to improve SEO ranking of a site with a .com versus .net, .org, or .co.uk? I'm not exactly sure the question, but I'm asking, yeah, you're asking like, I guess you're asking if it's a .com or .net worth more than a .org, that kind of stuff. Or I guess you're asking, should you buy a .com and avoid the other dots? All the sites I own are .com. That's me. I'm sure other people are willing to buy on .net or .org.
Yeah, personally, like you always want to go for .com, of course. Like that's definitely the best. I personally will. I don't have a problem getting .net or .org, and I actually equate them about pretty much equal to each other. So, you know, any .net or .org is roughly the same value to me. But I personally don't go for any other extension. Like I don't like .co or .tv or .us. I think they're all garbage in my opinion. But yeah, don't underestimate the .net or .org. They're really good for search engine rankings even though they're not a .com. Like I own the pokerforums.org and sold that even though it's a .org for very high 5-figure range. And there's a lot of other websites that are .net and .org that do well too. But yeah, personally, I don't like to do any other extensions other than the big three.
Here's a question for Zach. Have you made good money off bloggingtip.com since you purchased it?
I purchased it for around 40 times monthly earnings, so it's going to take a lot of time, but it's really a huge investment of a website. So yes, it's making a decent amount more than it was when I purchased it, but it will take a year or two, at least 2 to 3 years to probably pay off, but it will double in value easily.
Is it possible to sell a Spanish-written website on Flippa? I would imagine so.
It is possible, but you're going to have a much smaller base of potential buyers, that's for sure.
Yeah, so you can sell websites in any language on Flippa. It could be Spanish, English, Chinese. But keep in mind that
German.
The majority of Flippa users are English speaking, so. Right? Why do Flippa auctions reset their time back 4 hours when sellers accept bids?
This is basically to prevent sniping during the last hours of an auction. We don't want someone coming in the last 10 minutes of an auction, putting in a bid that's $1 more than the current price and winning that auction, so giving other bidders the opportunity to submit an even higher bid. So any bids placed during the last few hours of an auction extend the auction by 4 hours. That's to give other people the opportunity to respond and to prevent sniping, essentially, so it's called.
To follow up on that, is there any possibility, Matt, that you guys would consider either lowering or reducing that amount of time, or maybe even making it an option for the lister to deactivate that? Just because, like for example, on that last listing that I purchased, since it does extend by 4 hours, it can potentially, the bidding can go on for days or even, almost like a week.
That does happen, yeah.
Yeah.
It does happen, absolutely. And that basically helps the seller maximize their value for their asset. What we've had happen before, when this feature didn't exist, is someone would win an auction, then one of the bidders who came in second or third place would privately message the seller and offer them, $500 or $1,000 above their winning bid, and then in most cases, the seller would accept the bid, and then they would do this private transaction. The winning bidder wouldn't get the website, so they'd be disappointed and they'd be leaving negative feedback for the website seller, and this entire messy situation would develop with private bidding happening after an auction closed because people felt they didn't have the opportunity to make it happen. And yeah, we did actually have a blog post about the 4-hour extension, where that's the correct number and whatnot. And we had, I think, 50 or 100 comments on our blog post. And most people said keep it as it is. So that's what we ended up doing.
Okay. Question for Zach. Do you still recommend article marketing after the Panda update?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are still doing well with article marketing. I do it on a few websites, and it's definitely a good solution for anybody who's starting out or doesn't really want to spend any money, because it'll get you into the search engines and they'll see that there's some good juice flowing along back to your website. So yeah, I still recommend article marketing.
Okay.
Even better is if you can get a guest blog post in a high-profile blog published.
Right, definitely.
Do you guys use outsourced workers to monitor Flippa for good opportunities? And if so, how does that work for you? Anyone here outsource anyone to monitor Flippa?
I don't really understand. Does he mean hiring?
You're hiring someone to look for opportunities in Flippa.
Oh, I see. To buy a site, you mean?
No, just to monitor for opportunities. Like, you know, like you outsource someone, because Flippa has thousands upon thousands of listings. So do you hire someone to maybe monitor for potential deals?
Yeah, to see it, yeah, to look for it, yeah. I don't do that. I haven't heard of anybody that does that. I'd have a number of problems with that. The main one being, I don't think I could really find many people, at least nobody that I could really afford to outsource, that really have the credentials to find a site that would be a good buy, because it actually takes a bit of experience and skill to find a good site to buy. So I personally haven't done that, but it's not a bad idea.
It'd be a cool idea. I mean, yeah, I would outsource someone to look for deals for me. The only problem I would have is that, you know, they might keep the deal for themselves. Are there any reliable tools or sites that will help determine the value of your sites automatically?
No.
Not that I know of.
There are, but they're just completely random.
Exactly.
They're not reliable, exactly.
Yeah, I saw one that valued my blog at about $5 million, something like that. They go, yeah, if anyone wants to offer me $5 million for my blog, I'll sell it.
Yeah, and then another one that will value it at $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those tools, you should just stay far away from them, because they have no way of knowing, and they never will, of knowing what your site's value is. And it's kind of scary when people kind of list that on their listings. Sometimes they're like, oh, this site stated that my website or my domain is worth this amount of money. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, that can do that. It's almost random. The better ones might base it off of some like mathematical algorithm based off your Alexa ranking and whatnot, but they're pretty much just random, so don't pay any attention to them.
Yeah, basically, you know, your site is worth whatever someone is willing to pay for it.
One thing I do want to mention as we wrap up,
similar bidding tool for a site?
Could you say that again? I think you two overlapped each other.
How do you come? Okay, back to go.
Cool. One thing I wanted to mention as we wrap up this webinar and answer the last couple of questions is anyone listening in on the call who's interested in website buying opportunities and they don't want to outsource, you know, the reviewing of the listings to someone, yet they only want to get the highlights. We have a free newsletter on Flippa called the A-List. And basically what we do is we sort through all the auctions that get posted on a weekly basis. We pick what we think are some of the more interesting opportunities for website investors and website buyers, and we automatically email to you every week free of charge. And this newsletter is called the Flippa A-List, and basically narrows down the 1,000 listings that get posted every week down to about a dozen interesting ones.
A question here says, I am a novice to flipping and developing website. What's the best way or beginner's way to approach this? I have very little money to spend and don't know how to code. I also like to start buying and selling domain names. So basically, I have limited funds. What's the best way to start buying and selling websites?
There's, yeah, there's two ways to do that. The cheapest way is to simply go to any registrar, any domain registrar, such as Namecheap or GoDaddy, and just simply type in look for available domains. Just look for something like a half decent domain. See if it's available. If it is, and try to limit yourself to .com, .net, or .org. Then you can just flip it, try to sell it for more than you paid for it, and you can usually get a domain for about between like $6 to $8 or so per year. And then if you sell it for $50, you just made about a $50 profit. So you can list it on Flippa. There'll be a little bit of a listing fee. You could also, for domain names, you can list it on. I personally really like namepros.com. It's a free domain form, and dnform.com, but you'll need a paid membership for that. That's the cheapest way into getting into buying and selling domains. The next step up, other than registering a domain yourself, is to simply buy domains from somebody else, and then try to flip that. So you buy a domain from somebody for $50, try to sell it for $100. The only thing is, with domains, your margin is going to usually be pretty slim. You're not going to make a big profit off of it, if anything, just because all it is a domain, and chances are if somebody wanted it, they would have already purchased it. Whereas with a website, you can really, there's just so much more to a website. It's like three-dimensional, whereas like a domain is like two-dimensional. And so with a website, you can really flip that for an unbelievably high return on investment, whereas with domains, you can rarely do that.
I would also recommend investing in a few books on HTML and CSS and SEO just to get the basics down. It takes a lot to learn how to be successful in internet marketing. It's not just, especially if you want to make a living out of it, it's a long-term project and you have to invest in your own education. On the domain name front, one other opportunity that exists is buying domain name auctions, through domain name auctions for deleted domain names. Every day people choose not to renew certain domain names and they basically get dropped and put into an auction, and you have the opportunity to buy domain names that are often quite good, sometimes for a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 a piece. One of those services is called pool.com, Pool.com, and there's like tens of thousands of domain names that get deleted every single day, and there's obviously going to be some absolute nuggets in there, some real gems that could be worth a lot of money.
Okay, that was what's the best free blog hosting site? Free blog hosting site. Well,
WordPress.org?
WordPress.com would be
.com, yeah.
free. Well, but honestly, to keep in mind that WordPress.com, while it is the best free blog hosting site, WordPress.com does not allow you to make money from the blog. If you want to make money from your WordPress blog, you will have to download the software and install it on a paid hosting. And when you consider that you can get web hosting for $3.70 a month now, that's next to nothing, really. So I do recommend you go for a paid solution versus a free solution.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
Pretty much.
And if you're not very tech savvy, there's actually a free service that will come and install WordPress on your paid hosting account, which is pretty cool.
What is the easiest and most effective way to generate traffic?
The easiest and most effective?
Easiest and most effective way to generate traffic.
I would probably say like a paid to, like Google AdWords or Yahoo or Bing search marketing. It's probably the easiest way to drive targeted, relevant traffic to your site. But the only thing is, it can be pretty pricey because there's so much competition there because they have so much search volume. So whether you can turn that into a profit is a lot trickier, but it's the easiest way if you're just looking to drive traffic and you're not concerned about profit. That's the easiest way, I would think.
Yeah, you know, if you have money to spend, then it's getting traffic is pretty easy. Now, if you don't have money to spend, then I would sorry to say one of the most effective way to get targeted traffic to your blog is by guest posting on a bigger blog that's in the same niche that you're in.
Or just publish something that's really groundbreaking and ends up going viral.
Yeah.
We just did this on one of our blogs in the past week. We published a blog post on something called the Sasada Principle, and it got picked up on reddit.com. We got 2,500 retweets, 2,000 Facebook likes, etc. Like 250,000 page views in 2 days, basically, just because we had written this groundbreaking blog post about this obscure thing for web designers. But it was really unique, really high quality, a very well-researched piece that actually took more than a week's full-time work to put together. It was so different from anything else that had been published, so new and so interesting. It became very share-worthy and attracted a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I find those kind of posts work really, really well. In the beginning, I did a lot of those when I was starting out. I remember my first viral post that got picked up on the front page of Dig and got spread around was about the Lexus LS460 that can parallel park itself. And back then, it was big news. It was the first car that can parallel park itself. So I actually wrote a blog post about that and saying, but the thing is, it was a first generation parallel parking system. And you have to enter this and that onto the screen. And by the time you enter everything, someone probably stole your parking spot. Right? So it got picked up by Dave, went to the front page, and it worked really, really well. And my biggest viral post I ever made was when I wrote a post about the most high-tech urinal in the world. It was in Victoria, and Victoria spent $250,000 to buy this urinal that rises out of the ground. So at nighttime, it rises out of the ground, so people partying in the club nearby have someplace to go, and in the daytime, it sinks back into the ground. And it was pretty high tech. And that hit the front page of Slashdot. Right? And then it went to front page of Dig and got picked up by Engadget. Something like 350,000 page view over within like 2 or 3 days. So definitely, if you can think of something that has lots of viral potential, whether it be a video, an unusual blog post, those work really, really well. All right, so I thought that private registration for domain was bad for SEO. Is this true?
Can you see? What was that? Is private registration bad for SEO?
If you put your registration, who is on private, this person heard that it was bad for SEO. Google doesn't like that. Is that true?
I personally haven't heard about that. Anyone else?
I haven't heard that it's bad, but I have heard of people using multiple different addresses so that they can track which websites you own or if you interlink between them. But I use private registration on pretty much all my domains, so it hasn't been affecting me at all.
I do know that the longer you register your domain for, that does benefit your SEO. So, if you register your domain for like 20 years, it is better than if you registered it for only 1 year. And that's so Google kind of thinks that your website is a little bit more serious that way, as opposed to a whole bunch of just like quick WordPress or made for AdSense sites that will expire in 1 year. But the question is, how beneficial is that? It's probably extremely minimal. But I actually do register my domains for a longer time now because of that. But yeah, private registration I haven't heard about.
Okay. This person wants to sell his site, but did not install Google Analytics when he first built it. What can he do? I would say install Google Analytics now so you can show me something.
Yeah. That's the second most reliable whole thing would be to provide shots from whatever ad
Yeah, I
network
think
is
she's definitely
using.
still analytics.
If you can provide screenshots that show Google AdSense impressions generating revenue for your domain, that's pretty good. It's probably better than using AWS stats, one of the other log file tools, which massively inflates traffic.
And a question here from Kirk. Are people selling websites that are brand new with domain names that are brand new? And if so, how much are they getting for it? This is on Flippa, I guess, yeah.
Yes,
Any
they
idea,
are,
Matt?
and they're getting anywhere from, yeah, there's hundreds of sales like that every single month. People are getting anywhere from like $50 to $200, $300, $400 for brand new websites. It used to be even higher, but then a whole bunch of people started up a business doing this and drove down prices.
So that's what I mentioned, is that there's probably a big business just, just registering a domain, creating a niche site, and then putting some articles on there, and they just sell it on Flippa.
Yeah, people have figured out how to do that in like 4, 6, 8 hours of work. They can outsource it, get done for $20, $30, $40, and sell it for $150, $200, $300. People have definitely done that, but I think as a business for long term, that's not something that you want to do. I think it's much better to create long-term value, build long-lasting assets, build something like bloggingtips.com that you can sell for $60,000.
Are there any particular topic I should avoid in my blog? Basically, you have to know your own audience and what they like. Like, if you're a blog about Apple, you definitely probably want to avoid talking about something that's off the beaten path, like boats. So, if you're a political blog, then I guess you can talk about anything you want, I suppose. But yeah, I would say stick to your niche. Like whatever your blog topic is, pretty much stick to that. Don't try to deviate too much from that. Right? If you're gonna be a blog about tech, stick to tech. If you're gonna blog about politics, stick to politics. So. Hi, John. I recently purchased a domain package on Flippa, and one of the domain name was johnchow.net. Any idea about what to do with this? All right, so okay, well.
I think you're being sold.
Mr. Larry here, you own johnchow.net. Congratulations. Actually, I used to own johnchow.net. See, when I first registered johnchow.com, I also took the .net and the .org for John Chow, and I had them all. And in the end, what happened was I just kept the .com and let the other ones go, and immediately the .net and .org were picked up. And what you can do with whatever you want to do, I suppose. But I do have an interesting story. I did get, a long time ago, I got an email from the person who owns johnchow.info, right? And he sent me an email saying that I own johnchow.info, and what he wanted to do was he wanted to turn the domain name over to me to have it developed. So he would give me the domain name, and he said I can then develop it, and any money made, we can split 50-50.
Great deal.
What a deal, huh? Yeah, so that's for, well, what you can do, you want to start a John Chow fan club, by all means, start a John Chow fan club on johnchow.net. That sounds, I'm fine with a fan club. Okay. Zach, do you see any positive trend toward mobile platform for affiliate marketing?
I haven't gotten into the mobile area yet, but honestly, all the people who are making the apps and they're going viral. They're making, like the guy who made Doodle Jump is making 15,000 every day, and he hasn't done anything else with it in a year or so. So it's a matter of actually getting an app designer, getting it out there and being creative with it. I wish I was in that area, but I'm not. But from the people I know, they're doing extremely well. And all of the apps that are free, they're making a ton of money just off the little scroll bar advertisement. So don't think that you have to charge for an app for it to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that Angry Bird for the Android makes like $10,000 a day just on ads. So Yeah, cool. May I know your opinion on buying an e-commerce site that sells physical products? Any of you guys ever purchased an e-commerce site that's actually sold something real?
I used to have a drop shipping website, and the margins were very high on it, and it made a decent amount of money, but it was a huge pain in the butt just to manage the ads. I didn't have to physically ship the orders out, but just getting the orders and then mailing the drop shipper and handling the payments in between, it was a huge pain. So it would definitely be worth it if I didn't have the blogging and the other affiliate marketing stuff going on at the same time. So I would look more at drop shipping than having to have your own product.
Yeah, Jim, this is why I personally avoid, selling a physical product or e-commerce sites, and because I have certain rules when it comes to investing and stuff, and one of them is thing I like to be mobile, in that I like to be able to run my business from anywhere in the world, and having to ship physical products means ties me down to a location, so I would avoid that. But a drop shipping arrangement works really good, or an affiliate arrangement. So those work. I find those work better. Oh, what? How much are .it domain selling for on Flippa?
Sorry, can you repeat that question? It cut out on me.
Any idea what the .it, like .it domain, or any other domain besides the .com, I guess? Some of the unusual domains.
I mean, on Flippa, it's primarily focused on buying and selling websites, mostly than domain names. I'm sure you could sell a .it website if it had, content, revenue, traffic, etc. In fact, people tend to care more about the traffic, revenue, content, community, registered users, email lists, than the domain name.
Okay, and looking at our time now, we are pretty much 2 hours up, and the last question here is perfect. Where will you post a download link to this webinar? Well, this will be recorded, and I'm going to process this webinar recording, and I will upload it, and it will be posted on my blog, and hopefully I'll get this done tonight. And so check my blog back later tonight, and you should see the webinar up live, and you can watch it over again. And with that, I believe we are time's up. So we're gonna basically leave the last word for Tyler, Zach, and Matt. Is there anything to say? Tyler?
No, just thanks for hosting this webinar. It was my first one, and it's fun. Wouldn't mind doing another one. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for attending. Zach Johnson here. Thank you.
And
thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
I think buying and selling websites or buying and selling domain names was 5 years ago. It's a very early market, and people that get into this now and master it will be very successful in the future. I think it's like really, really early days in where we are today.
Okay, and with that, like I said, this is a pitch-free webinar. There is no sales pitch, so you don't have to worry about pulling your credit card. We want to thank everyone for attending, and keep an eye out for our next webinar, and we will see you then. And like I said, if you do visit our blogs, and expect I will process this video, and it should be up and running in about. Check on my blog in about 3 or 4 hours. It should be up if you want to see the replay. And with that, we want to thank you and good night. And it's dinner time. I know for Zach, you guys, and Matt, you're back East Coast, so you have dinner already. But for me and Tyler, it's now 6 p.m. It's dinner time. All right, so good night, and we'll see you guys next time.